transition and take over a program.
Mike Schaefer.
I was trying to kindly tell Mr. Bishop the Vikings have a chance to surprise some people, and I think that they could even win the division.
Mike Schaefer.
It doesn't seem like the kind of book where they would be hooked on meth. That got dark.
Mike Schaefer.
Live on Stibbs TV. There he is, Mike Schaefer, Husker 24/7, with an aching beard. This is a new one. I've heard of a lot of weird injuries, but an aching beard is a new one. What's up? What's going on?
It's not an aching beard. It's that my face hurts because my beard has dried out all of the skin on my face, and no amount of moisturizer can make it feel better. Like the dry air combined with the fact that like a beard already dries out the skin on your face just makes for a very long winter. Like, I deal with it every winter, but it's just exceptionally bad when it's just.
I don't have the beard that you have by any means, but I get that super dryness right around the mouth.
Yeah.
And like my whole mouth turns red. It is so annoying. It hurts to talk because like anytime you stretch out my lips at all, like it's horrible.
I mean, I've had my goatee for a long time. I don't.
Yeah, it's not fun.
I don't get that.
It looks like you've shaped your beard differently, Schaefer. I like it.
It's looking good, man.
Maybe you just lost some weight.
Ago. I think mostly it just looks different because this hair has stopped growing entirely. I think we've kind of hit the point where it's just, that's just what it is.
Save on haircut.
I can tell that I need my hair trimmed on the sides a lot more than on the top. And so I just continue to go through life looking like a schlub. So that's just where we're at.
Have you thought of mayonnaise on the face, Schaefer? Like John did that a couple weeks ago. I think he's looking good. Have you thought about that to try to maybe help out with the dryness?
I've never thought of mayonnaise as a moisturizer. I don't know if it showed up in the Hellman's commercial on the Super Bowl with Amy Schumer, all the different things that you could have, that mayo helps out with. I didn't know that cake was one of them. I actually looked that up as the commercial was going on to see, how mayo is involved with cake, and it is, and it's a miracle elixir, and I think John Bishop should stop hating on it.
No, it's not a miracle elixir, and I won't stop hating on it. By the way, how does the moisturizer even get through the beard?
Well, so the moisturizer is for the skin. You're
right, but you got to get through the beard to get to the skin.
It's not this like this. Obviously, I have conditioner and shampoo for the beard. People use beard oil that's supposed to help out more. Where it hurts is I have like almost rashes breaking out underneath my eyes and above my eyes of just like dry, angry skin because it doesn't get enough moisture daily. So I'm putting on the moisturizer and it's still not doing a good enough job. It's tough out here. First world problems have me in a bad way, I'll tell you.
So I imagine you're pumped then for the weather this weekend when it's going to be negative 15 degrees outside and we're going to get a little bit of snow. That'll be a good time.
Yeah, and the thing is, like, the fact that it's like this, it's in your house. So I need to get like 17 more humidifiers and have 3 in every room. And like that's the only way I think to possibly survive. Isn't it just very Nebraska-like that you have the humidity in the summer that's just muggy and ruins everything? And then we get the really dry winter in which you're just desperate for some humidity in order to kind of like survive it. It just feels like a very Nebraska thing. Like why our ancestors chose to establish here when they could have kept going west to something better, I'll never understand.
Well, who's dumber, them or us for staying here?
Oh, it's always us. We're always the dumbest ones.
Yeah.
We have more opportunity to leave than ever. They might have just had their horse and buggy could have broken down and they were just where they landed at that point in time.
Let's see. It's flat and there's no trees. This looks like a good place. And thus Nebraska was born.
Go Big Red.
Go Big Red.
And then the football
That's what they said.
And then the football team started and then they got bad. And this is
now the football team, there's even less reason to stick around, right?
Well,
hey, we got gambling coming.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
It'll be like the 40th state to get it done.
Well, yeah, and yes, we have gambling coming, but it's kind of limited. So
yeah, you got to actually go there, and you can't gamble with apps. Yeah.
Well, we were talking, Schaefer, before you came on about Marcus Castro Walker, the new player development director who's going to take over for Ron Brown. And one of the theories that are out there is that he is essentially being brought to the staff as a way to help retain players and keep them from moving into the transfer portal, because his job is to kind of be that advocate for those everyday things beyond just playing time and things like that. How did you view his hiring and maybe where his skill sets are, where he comes from, his familiarity with Frost, and what advantages he can bring to the team?
Well, based on that interview that Frost had with the two newspapers, it seemed like this is a position they really valued, and they needed somebody in that role that could wear a bunch of different hats and could relate to kids that are in the ages of 18 to 23 and sort of can be kind of like a house mom, if you will, if you think of the football team as a fraternity. And so I think that Marcus Castro Walker certainly fits that bill based on kind of the role that he's had with the staff in the past. I think they're very comfortable with him. I think they're certainly willing to try anything and everything to try to keep players here as much as they can and to keep them happy. And that might have been some of the feedback, is that they felt like there was a barrier introduced between, what they needed the coaching staff to know and things that might have been affecting them on the more campus level of housing and everything else. So I don't know the full kind of details of it, but just reading through the lines of what Scott Frost had to say, and then the fact that they went out and the person they hired is someone that they've worked with in the past, it seems like this is a thing that they put a lot of emphasis in, and they view Marcus Castro Walker as someone that can help them out just with the relationship with their team.
Shape, do you think Bill Bush is going to be a full-time assistant coach again at some point in time with Nebraska?
It certainly feels like they basically have him, on the taxi squad, if you will. Like if a guy is unavailable, and then you can just pop him in. What is also really fascinating, and what I will keep an eye on for sure, is we've seen Nebraska have this in the past. You have an assistant coach that can't get on the road and recruit. You fill out a waiver, and then all of a sudden Bill Bush, who's known for his recruiting, can get out there and beat the path for you a little bit in Southwest United States. Arizona is where he made his hay the first time around at Nebraska, and Prince Amukamara, Eric Hagg, two big feathers in his cap, I'm pretty sure. And so I think that, Bill Bush is going to have a couple different roles. It certainly feels like it's kind of a backup plan, if you will, a guy that sort of is just available, and when the next move happens, they can slide him in, whatever that move happens to be.
Who would they replace on the staff in terms of the guy who can go out versus the guy who can, if they were to do that route?
It's been a variety of different things. When they've done it in the past, you've had Barney Cotton hurt his shoulder. I don't know if it was the time that he was taking his dog and he was riding his bike and they got wrapped around a pole, or if it's when he fell down the stairs. But those are the, two of the incidents that he had shoulder injuries with. And so that sidelined him a little bit. And then you have the cancer situation with Javon DeWitt, which allowed several of their graduate assistants to get on the road. And I don't know how strenuous the standard is that you have to meet, but if you have a coach who is not feeling well, and certainly in the time of COVID, if someone comes down and this is still going on. I don't know if any of the coaches are going to be first in line to have vaccines or not, but if they're able to go on the road and we're still in a COVID world, and you have a coach that ends up testing positive and you can slide somebody else in, I mean, it just feels like there's going to be a way that they can make this work. But I don't actually know when we're going to see coaches go on the road for evaluation period, because I could see a world in which they allow the players to do it, but entities don't allow their coaches to go out and recruit. And because, your universities are restricting travel, maybe the NCAA just decides that it's just a one-way deal for now, where, kind of like in the month of July or, other ones like that, where kids can come to campus, but you can't go physically visit them on their campus.
Shape, kind of along those lines, I wonder if, as we talked last year about the effects that COVID had on recruiting and how, wow, this is going to have such a huge impact, and it obviously did. Were we missing maybe that it's going to have potentially a bigger impact on the 2022 class, just in that at least some of the 2021 prospects had already visited before? So at least they had met the coaches. And I know that Nebraska signed guys that Frost has never even met. But I just wonder if in the end it's going to have a bigger effect on this group just since they were a year younger, thus they hadn't done a whole lot of visits.
It does, in the sense that if this had never happened, Nebraska's probably sitting at like 4 commitments right now or 3 commitments right now, whereas they have none because they just haven't had the opportunity to get these kids to campus, and they're in that weird holding pattern where they're going to wait and see what the NCAA is going to do in terms of allowing visits. Nebraska is going to have a bigger class in the sense that, there's going to be some classes this year that maybe they only take 12 to 14 people because they don't have the space. Nebraska, I would imagine, is going to be around their 20 number as they usually are. And so I anticipate they're not going to be able to use scarcity the same way that others might. And so there's all these different factors that have come into it. But Josh, you hit the big thing there, which is at least with that 2021 class, they had sort of that 2020 season, or excuse me, the 2019 season, to get on the road and take visits and to see schools and to experience things that way. Some of these kids that were just freshmen or sophomores in 2022 and 2023 hadn't had that yet. They hadn't had that profile. Some guys didn't even get a junior year. If you think about California, Illinois, Virginia, Hawaii, and that's a huge deal. I mean, that's a very big deal. The junior year is a big year as it relates to the rating, as it relates to the recruitment. And so, I would say 2022 is definitely strongly affected here. And it could sort of change the flow of the cycle a little bit to where if it does open up in May, as it's kind of been sort of the hypothesis, you could see an explosion of commitments at that time. And then it sort of becomes like, okay, that's the kickoff to the cycle for some teams, and then where they go from there.
Mike Schaefer of Husker 24/7. There's hope that there will be at least some loosening of the dead period in recruiting at some point in the spring. Obviously, we got the news yesterday that Lincoln is now in the yellow in terms of the COVID meter. So events like a spring game, for example, which are scheduled for early May, could have, more than half capacity at Memorial Stadium. So I'm supposing this question on those two things, that there is an ability for players to come and visit, and we're still in this, yellow period, or maybe even in a better spot come May. Do you think Nebraska really pushes the envelope on a spring game weekend in terms of bringing in recruits and bringing in fans if they have the green light on both?
Yeah, I mean, I think for sure the recruits, if they get the green light there, they're going to have recruits there at the spring game. The fans, I'm curious how much of that can be tied up to the Big Ten still, because this seems like this conference does not want fans at their sporting events. You're already talking about, softball and baseball. They're going to be playing throughout the spring, and you may not have fans at that. And so if that's the case, I don't know if Nebraska is going to be able to have fans if the conference-wide is just not allowing it. And so that almost feels like it's a little out of their hands. It's out of Pete Ricketts' hands. It's out of Bill Moose's hands. It feels like it's squarely another decision that we have to wait on from the Big Ten, which, as we have seen throughout this time, have been both legends and leaders as it relates to COVID response. And so there's no better entity on this earth that you would want making a decision as it relates to your COVID.
Do you think does the Big Ten really have control over a spring game? I mean, I understand if they have control over where the teams play, but can they actually,
I don't know why they wouldn't have control over it. I mean, it's a Big Ten entity. They don't have control over the non-conference schedules, and teams weren't allowed to have fans for those games for basketball.
Well, but okay, let me throw this out. But let's just pretend, everything was in the green here, and you had a big booster event of some kind where the players were allowed to make appearances. The Big Ten can't. The Big Ten can legislate some things, but I mean, we're talking about practice.
A booster event isn't the same thing as a allowed practice under NCAA regulation.
Well, it's still a large gathering of people.
Yeah, I mean, the Big Ten can't stop the city of Lincoln from having people gather, but they can basically strongly encourage teams to not have fans at their spring game. I think they still are within the right of doing that. I don't know that it's the right move to do. And I don't know that it comes out to that fruition. But right now with the Big Ten, anything's on the table. To pretend otherwise, I think, is having your head in the sand based on the last 9 months.
Schaefer, I'm wondering, kind of looking at the program overall, I'm wondering if you think that this offseason is going to be as loud as it has been over the last month. It surprised me. Maybe I shouldn't be surprised, but there does normally seem to be a downtime and like this kind of turn to focus on recruiting, and then another downtime, and then a focus on a spring ball. And it seems like this week has been quieter than the last couple, which is saying something because there have been, a few hires made this week. But I'm just wondering if you think that this offseason is going to have this constant like news cycle, I guess, if you will, of Frost says something, Moose says something, everybody gets really mad. We talk about former players, something happens with a current player or an assistant coach, somebody leaves. Like, do you think that we're just going to be stuck in this for the next 7 months? Because it's kind of exhausting.
Well, I mean, it depends on whether there's news that's going to be discussed. I mean, so some of it is if Bill Moose and Scott Frost have interviews and then they say things that people construe one way or the other is going to continue that. I mean, I don't know how often those guys are going to be available. I mean, Scott Frost is generally not available again until the opening spring conference. And so unless there's like a coaching move or there's player movement, I don't anticipate that there's going to be a lot created by Nebraska. But the conversation will remain about this team up until whenever they play a game because of the just general disdain and unhappiness of where this program sits and the skepticism from some about where they're going. And so I think that there's, anything that happens, people are going to run to their corners that it means this or it means that. But I think it's going to be a little more quiet than it has been as of late. I mean, think about all the things that happened in the month of January. All of them. I mean, they added multiple new players. They lost 2 of their most visible offensive players. They had, Scott Frost had that sit-down interview. Bill Moose had multiple conversations with the media. And they said some things that drew commentary. You had former players getting involved as well. You had their current roster. They organized an event for the players to tweet out all at the same time. Like, there's a lot of stuff that's just happening to date from January 1 on that you file under this is not a usual offseason. So I don't know if we get to usual, and I don't know if they deserve usual either. I mean, they're 12-20. They create their own conversation more often than not. And people around here want to talk about it because they want, I think people want resolution. They want to know whether they're actually get to believe in this team or whether this is just going to be, well, you got to wait till next year. Like you're a Cubs or an Indians fan pre-2016 for John, forever for me.
Well, if it makes you feel any better, it'll be forever for me now too. So
it doesn't, but thank you.
I know. We're still hoping to get the one for you. I'm curious. I know that there's overlap between our audience and your readership. And we had this conversation kind of with SIP earlier this week, just about the overall fatigue.
I heard about that conversation.
Just the fatigue of people just saying, you know what? I'm tired of hearing promises. I'm tired of hearing this. Josh calls it the boy who cried wolf. Are you getting that sense? Just the people who, are on your message boards, who interact with you, interact with your radio show. Do you get that sense that folks are just like, man, I just don't want to hear anything right now. I don't want to hear any more about, this is going to be better or that's going to be better. Just, leave me alone for a while.
Yeah, I do get that sense, but that's on the consumer at the same time. And I gotta walk a thin line here because those consumers allow us to have the jobs that we do. But at the same time, if you are truly unhappy hearing a phrasing of how he's answering a direct question, that you can control that. You can't control the football schedule. There's not going to be an actual game until August 28th or whatever the actual day is. So if you're getting overly riled up because he's claims to feel strongly about the wide receivers, like some of that is on the fan base too. Like they can control what they choose to. The problem that this has reached is it's reached critical mass of any comment, basically, as I said before, gets taken and then sort of like broken down and trying to figure out, well, is there an extra meaning to this? Is it just some sort of like throwaway answer? It's just like people are searching for any kind of answer as to where this team is at now in the wording of a press conference where, I don't know how sincere Scott Frost is about the quality of their wide receivers. At the same time, he also can't say, yeah, I don't think we have it here. He just can't. And so I don't know why people have to put as much stock in some of these things as they do, but they choose to. And it always makes me laugh. It's like, I'm tired of hearing these guys talk. Well, turn it off. Like, if you're not interested in it, if you don't want to hear them talk, if you don't want to hear us have this conversation, turn it off. And look, I mean, if I'm being likened to Bo Pelini here, I don't know what else I can do.
For those of you who are listening and not watching along, Stibbs just put up a graphic of Mike saying he's blaming the fans like Bo Pelini.
He's not. I agree.
But I'll kiss my ass on the way out the door.
I couldn't help myself.
I think like there's just so much resentment that some have that this is where it's at 12-20, which I fully understand. But at the same time, it's February 10th. Like, the answers you seek aren't going to be there if you're fine combing every answer in a press conference looking for something.
And there's no way to prove it. There's no game.
Yeah, I know. We're
for
still
another 9 months.
We're so many months away.
Or 7 months or whatever it is.
Well, and that's the thing. Like, that's what sucks about Nebraska football, and it's been this way with Nebraska basketball for a while, is everything has become a referendum now. Every game is a referendum. Every series is a referendum. Every Adrian Martinez pass is a referendum. Every time you see the defense do anything, it's going to be a referendum. If Nebraska's defense comes out and they don't play well against Illinois, there's going to be so many people just ready to dive into the pool of, see, I told you they're terrible. I know one of them's in the four squares right now, Stibbs. He's just been out on that defense for years. But it's just this is where we're at with the media coverage, and this is where we're at with Nebraska athletics. I mean, every single thing is a referendum, whether it exists or not, and it gets tiresome. It absolutely does.
All right, Schaefer, so in happier news, they released the March Madness television schedule today. I know that we've talked about it before, about how bummed we are that there's not going to be the traditional Thursday. Did you get excited? I don't know. First of all, have you seen it? And second of all,
I haven't seen it, so you'll have to walk me through it a little bit.
All right, well, I mean, so Friday is going to be like normal. Friday will be the traditional Thursday, and then we'll get that on Saturday as well. But Monday, which normally has no basketball, we're going to have day hoops like all day long. Does that intrigue you?
Yeah, I'm intrigued by that a little bit. You have to kind of recalibrate a little bit, like you go into that Sunday sort of like, all right, I have to put my life together after spending 4 straight days of watching a television and basketball, and I need to add up my losses here to figure out if I'm going to lose a limb this month or not. But now you go into Monday and you have to figure that out. The thing that I've been most sort of intrigued by, and you'll be able to answer this now that you've seen the schedule, are they going to have it blocked out time-wise the way they used to, because they don't have those West Coast games? You're not going to – are they going to have like –
The windows look very similar to what they've been in the past.
Yeah, Schaefer, the first round windows are exactly the same essentially. Where it gets interesting is by the time that you get to the second round, which is on a Sunday and a Monday this year, they have really done a good job, or I guess good if you like it, but they are not going to have so many games overlapping anymore. So the first 2 days, it will be a lot of overlapping, but Monday, it's going to be a lot of like single game windows, which I think is cool because you get to watch more basketball. Bad because it takes away from the like fun of just like a million games at the same time.
I think they've been doing that. I know last year in the second round, especially the earlier games got their own window, and then there was more overlap at night. So for example, while we're on the subject, so that second round Sunday, which would be the first game of the round of 32, the first game is at 11. The next game doesn't start till 1:30, and then the next game doesn't start till 4. So it's a single game, a single game, a single game with no overlap.
And then you finally start.
But then
getting
at 6
some of
o'clock, there's a game. Another game starts at 7. Another game starts at 7:30. Then 8:30. Then 9:30. So the early games are all single games, and then there's between an hour or between a half hour and a half hour, or a half hour and an hour overlap starting in prime time.
Friday and the Saturday. So sorry, I was just going to say there are night games at 8:45 our time each day. So there'll be games going until close to midnight.
Oh, that's good. The danger would be when you get into the single game stretches, like when you get those blowouts and people you don't have anything you can turn it to. You're just forced to watch bad basketball.
Yeah, I don't know about you guys, but to me, the early rounds, the overlap is what makes the tournament exciting. Because if one game goes bad, you can instantly focus on another one.
Well, and that's kind of where, I always give this as an example, but like the Georgia State win, I don't remember if it was Baylor or whoever they beat. Like those are the moments that I remember of the tournament. I never remember the Final Four unless I lost money, like the year that North Carolina shouldn't have been allowed to play for the national championship and Gonzaga choked it away and I lost a bunch of money. Other than that, it's hard for me to remember the Final Four because most of the games aren't memorable. It's usually those early rounds that produce the buzzer beaters or the shocking moments. And then from there, the tournament kind of reshuffles and sort of goes as you not necessarily expect, but a little bit more by the book.
Wow. Mike Schaefer out on Chris Jenkins hitting the game-winning shot for Villanova.
That was cool.
That was a really good. You know who committed, I want to say that night or the very next day, was Tristan Gebbia. I remember being on the phone with him like right after that happened. Like right after that shot happened. And then like I'm doing this story or whatever, and I'm thinking to myself, this is a really cool sports moment, and I can't participate in it because I'm working right now.
All right, so what happened 2 years later when Villanova won the national championship, where you were on the phone with another Nebraska recruit that eventually transferred out?
I don't even remember who they beat that year.
That was Michigan, right? They blew out Michigan.
I probably didn't watch. I know I bet on Villanova, but I didn't watch. Yeah.
Well, there he is.
I don't have any other recruits to add there. My other like I had to do an interview after a really cool sports moment was the Stephon Diggs touchdown. And there was a visit weekend for Nebraska. And this kid was hitting me up because he wanted to do this story. And that all happens. And it's like, I got to get on the phone with this kid now. And I have to have like some sort of level of professionalism after watching all of that transpire.
I can imagine what that conversation was like. Schaefer just in tears of joy. Oh, so what do you think about recruiting?
I just went straight into my very monotone voice of how was the Nebraska visit?
Tears running down his face.
Spider's hiding in the corner because I picked him up and threw him in the air after it happened. And I caught him.
Did?
Yeah.
Oh my God, that's like throwing 200-pound weights around.
No, he's only 55 pounds, but he did not handle it well. He hid from me the rest of the night.
Can you believe that was over 3 years ago, Schaefer?
Yeah, I can. The Vikings. It'll be a while before they're back to an NFC Championship game. John, I have a question for you.
Yes.
Who and I know who has the better numbers, but when you think about it from a career standpoint,
yeah.
Who do you think has a better career? One is still ongoing, one is over. Aaron Rodgers or Kurt Warner?
A better career?
Yeah.
I still think it's Aaron Rodgers.
Because Kurt Warner's 3 for 3 in making Super Bowls when he had the opportunity to go. And the few that he lost, actually all 3 of the Super Bowls he played in are incredibly memorable.
Yes, they are.
You have the Rams win with the Kevin
good games. Well, he had good games in the first and the third. The second one, he was robbed because the Patriots spied on our practices.
Well, and that very well could be. But like all of those are like memorable, really good Super Bowl games. And I was just thinking, like, if he doesn't have that weird sort of middle portion of his career where he's hurt and then he gets sent to the Giants, he had a pretty phenomenal career when you look at the numbers too.
No, he did. But I mean, you got to consider, Rodgers has been so consistent. He's been at the top.
Yeah, Rodgers is a better quarterback. He's the better player.
But the better career, you can if you're basing career on championship game and championship game appearances, then it's Kurt Warner.
It's weirdly closer than a slam dunk answer. I think it still could be Aaron Rodgers, but I don't think it's as easy as like definitely Aaron Rodgers.
It kind of depends on your perspective of what it is you prefer. Now, those of us who obviously have teams, we want our teams to do well. So you can have a journeyman quarterback or a quote unquote game manager quarterback. Hey, if you're playing in championship games, that's all that matters. But if you like, because with Aaron Rodgers, you get the freakishly athletic plays, the dramatic plays, the comeback. Oh, that got weird there for a second. But you get all of those things where with Kurt Warner, it was really like 3 superlative seasons that culminated in a championship game appearance and in one a championship win.
I think I have one more stat for you here. I gotta find it because I'm not 100% sure on it. But I think Kurt Warner has more playoff wins than. No, he doesn't.
No way.
It's 9. He's 9-4. I think Rodgers is now 11-10. Something.
Wow.
It's a pretty good record, though.
If Aaron Rodgers had one more Super Bowl appearance, it'd be a slam dunk to Aaron Rodgers. But because he only has the 1 to the 3 for Warner, he asked me the question this morning, John, and I was like, "Wow, that's a really good question." It's not a slam dunk for Aaron Rodgers.
Okay, so it's not a slam dunk for Aaron Rodgers, but yet you continue to push back when we talk about elite Eli.
Because he's not. He's a bad quarterback except for 2 playoffs. Kurt Warner was great in the regular season many, many years. This is inarguable. Kurt Warner won the MVP. Eli Manning never won the MVP.
So?
Shave, come on. Come to my defense here. Don't let.
Yeah, I would take Kurt Warner over Eli Manning every day of the week.
Yeah, I would too. But
look, I think Eli Manning's much better than Josh does. But at the same time, I think Kurt Warner.
I was just laughing because all John has to do is say the guy's name. And you're just like, no, listen for a second.
Because he's just trolling.
I'm not trolling.
It's
you can't spell elite without E-L-I.
Yes,
you can't do it.
That's a literal fact. Congratulations.
And the fact that Tom Brady apparently is never not going to win another Super Bowl ever again. We need to celebrate those people who are undefeated against him in Super Bowls.
Did you still think the Tom Brady Super Bowl's hard, John? Like, did that bother you on Sunday night?
It did. I'm not going to lie. I was rooting for Kansas City. Now, it didn't bother me as much because it wasn't the Patriots. So that helped. But I didn't want to see Brady win again.
Seeing him drunk out of his mind in Tampa right now humanize him more for you?
Have you seen that video? It's awesome.
Oh, man.
He's wasted.
Yeah. Sure, but I don't know. It almost seems like he's putting on an act to show that he's human.
Doing a bit.
Yeah. I mean,
look at me. I like alcohol.
He has
too.
definitely tried that all through the season. His like Twitter videos and stuff that he's been doing. He's showing his kind of sense of humor that he wouldn't normally do. And I don't know if that's
he's now
allowed to, and he maybe
but hey, he's made movie appearances. He's done some funnier bits, but it always seems manufactured to me.
I don't know.
We have to go to break.
I'm sad that football's over. I'm trying to get as much like NFL talk as I can because it's going to be a long, sad slog.
Hey, don't worry. We got FCS football coming up in the spring. So
are you actually going to watch?
No.
I'll watch it like for the first day, and then I'll be like, never mind. I'm good.
I was going to say, if you guys couldn't get into the AAF with the outstanding Arizona Hotshots, I just don't see how you're getting into the FCS.
Fair.
Sorry, we're a Battlehawks team here. We're a US or USFL. What was it called?
Yeah, you can tell how much we love it.
We were an XFL Battlehawks station. That's what we were.
Yeah.
All right, Shake, we got to run. We'll see you. Take care of your beard. Hope your face feels better soon.
Good luck with your skin.
Yep. We got dumb debates coming up. We'll be back in a minute on 1620 The Zone.